This week marks 1,000 days since the November 2020 presidential election.
How did we get to the point where a former president now faces 78 different felony counts, with more expected soon right here in Georgia? Fox 5 team reporter Randy Travis takes a look at what happened here and how we got to this point. Randy?
Yeah, Tom and Christine, 1,000 days. It feels like we've been thinking and talking about that election every one of those days. Some of them, though, held key moments in a criminal investigation soon to be finished here in Georgia. By the time the polls closed on November 3rd, 2020, nearly 5 million Georgians had voted early, in person, or by absentee ballot. But it would take another 17 days before Georgia's choice would be officially decided, leading to a series of actions still being questioned today. November 11th.
There will be a recount in Georgia.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger orders a hand recount of every presidential ballot. November 13th, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham phones Raffensperger asking if he had the power to disqualify all mail-in ballots in certain counties over signature matching concerns. November 20th, Raffensperger and Governor Brian Kemp formally certify the results. Joe Biden wins Georgia by 11,779 votes. Georgia is the last state in the country to report, and one of the first to be hit with unproven allegations of fraud. December 3rd.
Georgia is going to be at the center of it.
Donald Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, makes his first of 3 appearances before Georgia state lawmakers, urging them to appoint an alternate slate of electors. He plays the infamous suitcases video, a selectively edited clip of 2 Fulton County election workers pulling a container from under a counter after Trump poll watchers had left.
There it is, right in front of our faces.
State and federal investigations find no evidence of wrongdoing. The 2 poll workers, Shay Moss and her mom, Ruby Freeman, are repeatedly targeted with death threats.
It's affecting my life in a major way, in every way.
December 5th, President Trump calls Kemp asking for a special session. Kemp tells him no. He also contacts Attorney General Chris Carr and House Speaker David Ralston. December 14th.
Thank you to Georgia for allowing us to speak on your behalf.
While Biden electors gather in the state Senate chamber to certify their 16 electoral votes, a separate group of Republicans meet in a different room and sign documents falsely certifying that they were duly elected and qualified electors for President and Vice President of the United States of America from the state of Georgia. Among the group of these alternate electors, future Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, GOP Chairman David Schaefer, and State Senator Sean Still. Some later said the move was to protect Trump's rights in case pending litigation broke his way. December 22nd, Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows shows up unannounced, hoping to witness a signature audit in Cobb County. He's turned away.
Hello, Francis. How are you?
December 23rd, Mr. Trump calls the state investigator for the audit, advising her on how to do her job. Only one signature mismatch is discovered. January 2nd, 2021, the president makes the call to Raffensperger, heard around the world.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Trump claimed the call was perfect. Supporters later argue the 67-minute call was not to ask Raffensperger to lie, but to at least find that many fraudulent votes among the hundreds of thousands they believe were counted. January 6th.
Move them this way! Move them! You think they're going to cheat us out of our vote?
The next day, January 7th, a group of computer experts flies to the Coffee County Elections Office, 200 miles south of Atlanta. Former County GOP Chair Kathy Latham, wearing the blue cardigan, welcomes them. She was also an alternate elector. Atlanta businessman Scott Hall admitted in a phone call he organized the trip.
I went down there, we scanned every freaking ballot. And they said, we give you permission. Go for it. So they went in there and imaged every hard drive of every piece of equipment.
That call and those surveillance pictures are part of an unrelated federal civil suit. Directed by Trump attorney Sidney Powell, the group searched for evidence the Dominion voting systems had been compromised. Instead, the GBI launched an investigation into their unauthorized access, and the state had to replace all those Coffee County machines. 2 days later,
I so state your name.
Fani Willis takes the oath of office as Fulton County's new district attorney.
February 20th, 2021.
Yes, we will issue grand jury subpoenas.
Willis becomes the first in the country to announce a criminal investigation into Mr. Trump's conduct and attempts to influence the administration of the 2020 Georgia general election.
June 1st, 2022, a special purpose grand jury is seated. They would hear from 75 witnesses, including Giuliani, Raffensperger, and Kemp. July 15th, all 16 alternate electors received target letters, although several have since been given immunity. December 15th, the grand jury issues a sealed report. One the jury foreperson says recommends indictments against more than a dozen people.
Of course, since that day, Donald Trump has been indicted 3 times, 78 counts in all, truly extraordinary. But he's the only one so far facing criminal charges for what happened in Georgia, at least so far.
Has there been any discussion or thought on what these potential charges in Fulton County could be? I know RICO has been discussed a lot, but any others?
The Brookings Institute asked various former prosecutors, including former DeKalb County prosecutor Gwen Keyes Fleming, what kind of charges the case could involve. And they listed 13 different charges, including racketeering. So if what they're saying is true, that grand jury that's deliberating right now, looking at the evidence, has a lot to consider.
It'd be interesting to see if those charges come down, what this indictment says.
And if there are any other defendants. So far, like I said, only Donald Trump faces charges right now for anything that happened around January 6th.
Yeah, good point there. All right. Thanks so much, Randy.
Thanks.